Look at your hand right now. 5 fingers. One thumb that can touch every single one of them. That sounds unremarkable until you realize almost nothing else on this planet can do that with the same precision. Somewhere among roughly 8 million known animal species, and every creature that has ever lived on Earth, one line of descendants ended up building rockets, splitting atoms, and arguing about it on the internet at 2 in the morning. That's the question for this video. Why are humans so different? Not a little different. Not smarter monkey different. Different in a way that doesn't have a real comparison anywhere else in the animal kingdom. Stick around, because by the end of this, you're going to understand exactly what happened to us, and it's stranger than you think. Welcome to the channel, and if this kind of thing does it for you, the subscribe button is right there and it costs nothing. Let's start with the obvious thing everyone points to first: brain size. And yes, the human brain is enormous relative to body size, roughly 3 times larger than you'd expect for a primate our weight. But here's what almost nobody tells you. Big brains alone don't explain us. Elephants have brains 3 times the size of ours in raw volume. Sperm whales carry brains that dwarf anything in the human skull. If size were the answer, dolphins would have cities by now. They don't. So size matters, but it's not the whole story, not even close. What actually seems to matter is a specific kind of big brain. Human brains dedicate an unusually large portion of their tissue to the prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for planning, abstract reasoning, and modeling what other people are thinking. That last part is important. Scientists call it theory of mind. The ability to understand that another creature has its own thoughts, beliefs, and intentions separate from your own. Most animals show almost none of this. A few great apes show flickers of it. Humans run entire civilizations on it. Every time you guess what someone else is thinking, every time you lie, negotiate, teach, or fall in love, you're using a piece of cognitive machinery that barely exists anywhere else in nature. Now here's where it gets interesting, because a brain this expensive comes at a brutal cost. The human brain burns through roughly 20% of your entire daily energy budget just sitting there thinking, while making up only about 2% of your body weight, 20%. No other organ comes close. Evolution does not hand out that kind of expense account for nothing. Something had to be worth that cost, and the leading answer connects directly to the next thing that makes us strange: cooking. It sounds almost silly to put fire and dinner in the same conversation as human uniqueness, but it may be one of the actual hinges our entire species swings on. Raw food takes an enormous amount of energy to digest. Chimpanzees spend nearly half of their waking hours just chewing. Cooking breaks down proteins and starches before they ever reach your stomach, which means your body spends dramatically less energy on digestion and has more available for everything else, including that expensive brain. Some researchers argue that without fire, the human brain as we know it simply could not have evolved. There wasn't enough spare energy in the system to build it. We quite literally cooked our way into becoming a different kind of animal. But cooking isn't just a nutrition hack. Cooking requires something else entirely, something most animals never manage. It requires patience for a delayed reward. You have to gather fuel, build a structure, wait, and trust that the wait will pay off later. Animals live almost entirely in the present. Humans, somewhere along the way, learn to organize their entire day around a future benefit they couldn't yet see or taste. That single shift, planning for a future self, shows up again and again in everything that separates us from the rest of the animal kingdom. Let's talk about language, because this is the one people assume they understand and mostly don't. Plenty of animals communicate. Vervet monkeys have distinct alarm calls for different predators. Whales sing across entire ocean basins. Bees dance out the exact location of flowers to their hive. What none of them do is combine a small set of sounds into an infinite number of new sentences describing things that don't exist, haven't happened yet, or never will. You can say a purple dragon riding a bicycle through next Tuesday, and every person listening will instantly build that image in their head, despite the fact that it has never existed anywhere. No other species on Earth can transmit an idea that abstract, that specific, and that instantly into another mind. And that ability changes everything downstream, because it means knowledge doesn't die with the individual who discovered it. This is sometimes called cumulative culture, and it might be the single biggest reason humans took over the planet. When a chimpanzee figures out a clever way to crack a nut, that knowledge mostly stays with that one chimp, maybe spreads a little within the troop, and often disappears within a generation or two. When a human figures out something clever, we write it down, teach it, argue about it, improve it, and pass an upgraded version to the next generation. Nobody alive today invented the wheel, or discovered germ theory, or figured out how to grow wheat. You inherited thousands of years of accumulated problem solving the moment you were born, completely for free. And you'll pass an improved version forward whether you realize it or not. No other species on the planet builds knowledge like a tower, generation stacked on generation. Every other animal, no matter how clever, is essentially starting from scratch every single lifetime. There's a stranger layer underneath all of this, one that barely gets talked about outside of academic papers. Some scientists believe humans went through something like self-domestication, the same biological process that turned wild wolves into golden retrievers, except we did it to ourselves. The theory is unsettling once you sit with it. Over tens of thousands of years, the most aggressive, least cooperative individuals within human groups were more likely to be killed, exiled, or simply avoided as mates, while calmer, more socially skilled individuals were more likely to survive and reproduce. Slowly, generation after generation, this reshaped us physically. Compare a human skull to a Neanderthal skull, or even to human skulls from 30,000 years ago, and you'll notice something odd. Modern human faces are softer, less robust, with smaller brow ridges and more juvenile features than our ancestors had. That's not a coincidence. It's the exact same physical signature you see in domesticated animals compared to their wild relatives. We didn't just build civilization. In a very real sense, civilization built us. By selecting for the humans who could live peacefully inside a large group. And that brings us to maybe the most underrated trait of all, one that doesn't sound impressive at first. Humans cooperate with total strangers. This should not work, biologically speaking. In the animal kingdom, cooperation almost always happens between close relatives, because helping your relatives helps copies of your own genes survive. A worker ant helping the colony is helping its sisters. A meerkat standing guard is protecting its own bloodline. Humans blow straight through that rule. You can walk into a coffee shop full of people you've never met, hand a stranger money, and trust they'll hand you a drink in return. Multiply that by billions of interactions a day across entire economies, built almost entirely on trust between people who share no genetic relationship whatsoever. No other species on the planet organizes cooperation at that scale, with that many strangers, that reliably. Part of the reason this works is something called shared intentionality, the ability of two or more people to hold the same goal in their heads at the same time, and know that the other person is holding it too. Watch two people carry a couch up a staircase together. Nobody explains the plan out loud in detail. You both just know, instantly, what the other is trying to do, and you adjust your body in real time to match. Chimpanzees, even the smartest ones raised alongside humans, consistently struggle with this exact task. They can work alongside each other, but true shared intention, the sense of we are doing this together toward the same understood goal, seems to be something close to uniquely human. There's one more piece of this that rarely gets its own spotlight, and it starts with something as simple as standing up. Walking on two legs freed up the hands for something other than locomotion, and that changed everything about what a human body could actually do. Combine a free hand with a thumb that can oppose every finger with real force, and you get an animal capable of precision grips no other primate can fully match. A chimpanzee can hold a stick. A human can thread a needle, carve a spear point, strike a flint at exactly the right angle to split it, or paint a bison on a cave wall using nothing but pigment and a steady hand. That level of fine motor control, paired with a brain built for planning, is what allowed humans to become the only species that consistently makes tools to make other tools. Not just using an object found lying around, but shaping raw material into something new. Then using that new thing to shape something else again. Nothing else on the planet runs that chain more than one or two links deep. Humans run it indefinitely. And then there's the sheer range of it all. Most animals are specialists. A polar bear is a master of the Arctic and dies quickly almost anywhere else. A camel is a marvel of the desert and would struggle badly in a rainforest. Humans are the opposite of a specialist. We live above the Arctic Circle in temperatures that would kill most mammals within hours, and we live in deserts so hot that exposed skin blisters in minutes. We live at altitudes where the air holds half the oxygen of sea level, and we live below sea level behind engineered walls holding back the ocean. No single human body is built for all of those environments. What makes this possible isn't biology adapting on the spot, it's culture doing the adapting instead. Clothing, shelter, fire, and inherited knowledge let the same basic body survive conditions that should be completely incompatible with human physiology. We didn't evolve a different body for every climate. We evolved a mind flexible enough to invent a different solution for every climate, which is a completely different kind of adaptation than anything else in nature relies on. Now here's the part of this video that deserves an honest pause. All of this makes it very tempting to tell a flattering story about human specialness, as if evolution was somehow building toward us the whole time. That's not really what happened. Every single trait we just talked about, the big brain, cooking, language, cumulative culture, cooperation with strangers, came with brutal trade-offs. That expensive brain makes childbirth dangerous and painful in a way it isn't for almost any other primate. Our dependence on cooked food means humans genuinely cannot survive long-term on a fully raw diet the way our close relatives can. Our obsession with abstract future planning is also the reason humans are the only species that reliably damages its own environment, worries constantly about things that haven't happened yet, and lives with anxiety as a strange side effect of a brain built to imagine the future in vivid detail. Being different didn't mean being simply better. It meant becoming a very specific, very strange kind of animal. One built for a narrow set of advantages that came bundled with an equally narrow set of very real costs. There's also a humbling truth hiding underneath all of this. None of these traits appeared instantly, and none of them appeared in isolation. Cooking probably fed the growth of the brain. The bigger brain probably made more complex language possible. Language almost certainly made cumulative culture possible. Cumulative culture likely accelerated cooperation, and cooperation likely reinforced self-domestication, and around it goes, each trait feeding the next one in a loop that took hundreds of thousands of years to fully click into place. You are not the product of one single miracle trait. You're the product of an extremely long feedback loop, one small advantage compounding into another, generation after generation, until eventually a hairless, slow, physically unimpressive primate ended up rewriting the rules for every other species on the planet. So why are humans so different? The honest answer is that we're not different because of any one thing. We're different because of a rare, compounding stack of traits, an expensive brain that could plan ahead, a digestive shortcut that could pay for that brain, a communication system flexible enough to transmit abstract ideas, a cultural memory that never resets to zero, a temperament reshaped by our own social pressure, and a willingness to trust and cooperate with people who share none of our blood. Take away any single piece of that stack, and you probably don't get the rest of it. Put them all together, layered on top of each other over hundreds of thousands of years, and you get something genuinely unprecedented in 4 billion years of life on this planet. A species that can look back at its own history and ask why it turned out this way in the first place. If you made it this far, that curiosity you just felt, that pull to understand your own species a little better, that's not an accident either. That's the exact same trait we've been talking about this whole time, still running right now in you. If videos like this are your kind of thing, subscribing genuinely helps this channel keep making more of them, so consider hitting that button before you go. I'd actually love to know what you think. Out of everything we just covered, which one of these traits do you think mattered the most? The brain, the cooking, the language, or the cooperation? Drop your answer in the comments. I read every single one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.